everyone. Welcome to the Speak and Flow podcast. I'm so pleased to introduce to you today Darcel Lobo. She is the founder of Law Firm in Seattle, Washington area. She's an attorney for families, helping them to plan for their financial future, everything from stopping bankruptcy to foreclosure. She also is a coach for lawyers who are starting their law practice and finding that it seems almost exhausting, overwhelming to do both law and also raising a family. And so I brought her here today because I know she has such incredible wisdom and insight to share with us regarding how we can set boundaries when it comes to both our work and families and how we communicate that. And so welcome, Darcel. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Well, let's just jump right in. Let's tell the audience. I'm so fascinated by your story, and I think it's inspiring. So, can you share about your journey?
I'll give a very short overview. So I've been an attorney for 15 years. Back in 2016, I opened my own law firm after, considering it for quite a few years, not sure how to navigate that. I had two small children and just trying to figure out what was next for me in my career because I was in a place I was just very unhappy with. So went out on my own in 2016, have never looked back. So glad that I did. But after doing so, I spent quite a bit of time mentoring and consulting other lawyers who were maybe in similar situations who wanted to open their own law firm or improve their law firms, but really struggling with the juggling act of their personal lives and their professional lives and dealing with burnout and, just a lot that comes with the running of a business and being a lawyer. And so I really help lawyers kind of bring that all together to have a happier life and a happier law firm.
Yeah, I mean, they don't teach that in law school, right? They don't
No.
teach the personal aspects of it. And many and our audience here is you and they're corporate. And so even if whether it's a law firm or whether you're running your own business in some other type of industry or area, it's like how do we balance both, right? We spend so much time in our work, but then we also have this huge other personal area that also we want to be a part of and want to be present to. So thank you so much for, yeah, like bringing that together for us, like
Yeah.
integrating both of it. And so when, what have you found? Like, what are some of the challenges that you see? Why is it so difficult for us to separate the two or bring it together? I want to say.
Well, I think a lot of it is that we're wearing a lot of hats, no matter whether you're a lawyer or corporate or, whatever kind of professional you are. We wear so many hats and we're trying to do everything all the
Yeah,
time and please
yeah,
everyone at the same time. And
yeah.
and we can't. And I think being okay with that and knowing that you can't be everything to everyone all the time. There has to be some give and take. There have to be boundaries with yourself, with your clients, with your family. I have, my children are a little bit older now, they're 11 and 13, but with them, with my spouse. And so learning how to identify those boundaries, assert those boundaries. And I think the biggest key when talking about boundaries is respecting your own boundaries. The boundaries are for you to where you say, like, okay, if this such and such happens, this is going to be my response. This is what I am or am not going to do. And respecting that for yourself is really the biggest lesson learned in setting boundaries and respecting them, I feel like.
And how did you help yourself or how do you help your clients identify those boundaries?
Well, I learned the hard way. And so, and so I find myself here, talking to my clients that I'm coaching with on how to identify those. So we really look at what are their priorities, what's
Mhm.
important for them. And for a lot of my clients, themselves, they put themselves on the back burner so many times. And I genuinely believe that, how can we be that, the best spouse we can be, the best mother we can be, the best, lawyer or whatever your profession is, if we're not taking care of ourselves first? So I really sit with my clients and kind of look through what, what's important with them, what's their priority, and then where do we need to set those boundaries? Where are we finding that, there's a lot of time being wasted? We're not productive, we're not efficient. And so identifying those problem areas and coming up with boundaries for the client that works best for them and that they're going to honor and respect also. I can't come up with boundaries for them because
Right.
what's a boundary for me, right, is not going to be a best boundary for someone else. So I work with them to figure out what's best for them and then to really help them be accountable to themselves.
Right, right. I so agree with that. I'm gonna pause it right here because my battery is about to run.
Oh no.
Thank goodness for editing capabilities. This is the type of morning that I had.
Yeah.
I noticed that my nose is getting clear because I
Oh
was like,
good.
yeah, and I go, wow, this is so interesting. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, we're talking about the boundaries and how they need to set it for themselves. Okay. So
Yeah.
I do have a question. You mentioned that you found it out the hard way. What happened? What was the symptom that told you that we can all potentially avoid? Like you don't want to wait till this moment to set.
Right, right. I think for me, it was kind of a gradual progression of
Right.
things, but I think, the burnout, feeling like I was always kind of on edge with, my family, with clients, and always kind of like, being snappy with
Yeah.
people, which, like really wasn't justifiable, but like in my own head, I was always on edge. I always had, just a lot riding on me. I know for me, just being really unhappy, which isn't my normal self.
Right.
And so, a lot of unhappiness, a lot of burnout, a lot of frustration. And also just in my personal journey, there was a couple of years there where I put on about 50 pounds,
Oh,
from like 2019 to 2021, put on about 50 pounds. And I really believe that I was just kind of eating the feelings, eating the emotions to be able to numb them and avoid them. For some clients, it might be, a lot of shopping, a lot of online distractions, whether it's an increased alcohol consumption. So there's different ways that we, deal with those, feelings and emotions and the burnout. And so identifying what those are for you, what the triggers are for you, and then taking action to kind of reel it back in. And so
yeah.
I spent the past 2 years losing about 60 pounds
Oh,
of not just weight, but like mental weight.
yeah.
Yeah,
That makes so much sense. Like we're not giving ourselves what we really want or need, and then
right.
we're medicating. We're finding
Yep.
different ways to medicate.
Yes, yes. And so it's trying to numb those feelings with other things
Yeah.
versus just addressing the underlying issues. Because that's hard. It's
Right.
hard to address the underlying issues and take a look inwards and kind of identify where things aren't going very well for yourself. That's a hard conversation to have.
Right, right. And looking for someone like you or somebody to support you with that through that journey.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I think having someone, in your corner, especially, for me in my profession, like I bring a firsthand experience or an empathy for a lot of
Right,
my clients as a lawyer, a law firm owner, and a mother myself. Like, so to help my clients kind of reel things back in before it gets that far, right? Before we get so far off track or derailed, to kind of help them stay on track in the first place. It's really, what I hope to do with my practice.
so how do you communicate that? I mean, you have so many, you're still wearing all these different hats.
Yeah.
And what are your suggestions for communicating once you've had these boundaries identified? What are your priorities? What are some suggestions that you have to communicate that to? Like you have one person A, person B, they both want you at the same time. Like, what are the best ways that you communicate or approaches?
So it depends on, for me, the underlying issue that we're dealing with. Like, for an example, I would say, like, for time management, I'm a true believer in blocking out your calendar, and to, focus on, individual tasks at a time. So, like, in my law practice, I only see clients about 2 days a week. I'm very firm on my schedule. I don't see clients on Fridays. I don't see clients on, Wednesdays. Law firm clients are really Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that is pretty set in stone with my team. There's some things I can control, like a court hearing, right? But to the extent that I can control things, I'm very protective of my time and when I do things. And so for me and my team, it's, knowing, when I'll see clients, when am I doing legal work, when am I doing, the HR side of things, when am I running the business side of things. And so, there's different time blocks in my calendar that I'm very protective of, but I have to be in
Right.
order to have my practice and my personal life, to be able to juggle those. I can't just take client calls at any time of day. They have to be scheduled beforehand. And so it's even just small things like that, as far as not taking unscheduled phone calls, to help protect your time. So I think it depends on what the issue is that we're talking about and identifying how to protect that. And then you do have to be able to vocalize that to those around you, that, whatever that boundary is, whether it's you're protecting your time, whether it's, with work or personal life, identifying those boundaries and then being very clear and then being comfortable saying them and honoring them. That was a
Yeah.
really long answer. I'm sorry.
No, I think it was really clear. Yeah, no, it's true. The block time is so critical because
Yeah,
then you can, and you said I like the word protective because it's just you're protecting that time, and it's not because you're protect. It is, but it all integrates because you're
mhm,
protecting this time at work so that you could also protect the time that you have with your family.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
And so, yeah, when I have, a 2 hour time block to get legal work done, I'm not answering phone calls. I'm not checking emails. I'm not on social, like I'm not doing these other distractions, because I can get a lot done. If I have a 2 hour block to get my legal work done, I can get a lot done if I just focus on that task at hand and not have all the distractions. And so it allows me to, leave the office at noon on a Friday, right? And it allows me to go to my daughter's Girl Scouts, my son's basketball games, and to do these things because I'm very disciplined about how I manage my time.
Yeah. Do you coach people on how to commute? What if they have a difficult time on breaking the news to somebody? Like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think that requires us to kind of delve deeper on as to why it's so hard,
yeah,
right? For that individual person, what is it about that conversation that is so hard? Is it about a particular person that you can't communicate, well with? Is it the people pleasing aspect? Is it, so what is the underlying issue behind the why it's so hard? And just because we have boundaries and we say no, it doesn't mean that we're being rude. It doesn't mean that we're, being, mean or anything in how we communicate. It's just, I can't do this right now, but here's what I can do it. I'd be happy to help you, or whatever the conversation needs to be. But it doesn't have to be a negative conversation. I think for a lot of times, my clients, there's a negative connotation to
right,
having boundaries and saying no. But I think, protecting, your time for yourself, so like you can in turn get all the things done that you need to get done. I don't see that as a negative at all.
right, right. Especially if we know the why,
Right,
behind it.
right,
I
right.
remember
Yeah,
like justifying a lot. No, because I have to do this and and I think a lot,
yeah.
justifying, giving so many explanations.
Right, right.
And
You hear that, no is a complete sentence.
right, right, right. Exactly. I've had to learn that. I'm still learning that. I'm still practicing that.
Right, 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 right. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that, I think everybody, needs, help with and kind of navigating and getting comfortable.
Yes.
Especially if you come from, a background or a childhood where, you didn't say no and you
Yeah.
did say
That's
yes and
it.
you were a people pleaser and you didn't want to disappoint. So to now be told that you should say no is like you feel bad for it.
So
Like
bad.
it's a negative thing, but it doesn't have to be.
Right. And it's not because otherwise, I mean, it doesn't do it us, me, them any good if I keep on saying yes to everybody or
Yeah.
yes to them and
Right. Or even worse, you say yes, then you can't deliver,
fulfill it. Yeah.
right? You
Right.
can't deliver. You're late with meeting your deadlines.
Yeah.
You end up missing your son's, basketball game or whatever it is because you've overextended yourself. Like that's so much worse to tell the person yes, to promise something and then you can't deliver. Like that
Right.
feels worse to me. I'd rather be honest and
Right.
saying that, I can't do so, right now, but how's this date? How's this time? Or
Right.
whatever the conversation needs to be, and to be
Right.
honest with yourself and with the person.
Right. Right. And it can't just be a no, not right now, right? Like what
Yeah,
maybe later on another date.
right,
And
right.
the like you said, people have people I think people respect it more when you could give them another date, or yeah, it's
Yeah,
more
and
respectful.
also like when you're able to keep your word, right? If
Yeah,
you're disappointing someone, if you're not
right,
keeping your own commitments or not in the time frame that you've agreed to, you're disappointing them and you,
right.
right? I mean, you're not developing a very good reputation for yourself either,
Uh-huh.
right? And so I think being able to be honest with yourself and with them, and then
Right,
to be able to deliver, you know, on time as you said you would, I
right.
think it just goes a lot further.
Yeah, totally. Do you have a
Yeah.
client story that you could share, or someone that you supported, and what was the result?
Um, Goodness, when my clients come to me, it's predominantly it's lawyers that I work with
Right?
who, do have their own law firms. And for, one client in particular that I worked with recently, it was about her fees, and not feeling, worthy of charging what she was worth, always discounting her fees, writing down her fees, under billing. And, when we first started, it was okay, we need to get to the root as to why. Why do you feel bad about earning, what you're worth? And look at the value you deliver and the legal service that she provided. It was such a value to her clients, and her clients weren't complaining about her bills and her fees. It was she had this internal guilt that we had to kind of work through and unpack, and really focus on the value that she's delivering to her clients. And that was really a roadblock for her. And she was kind of plateaued in her firm at her income level because she just couldn't get out of her own way. It was nobody else telling her that her fees were too high or that she needed to reduce her fees. It was herself in her own way. And I think for a lot of my clients, issues that they come to me with, it's they're in their own way. It's not anyone else a lot of times. And, for
Oh yeah,
myself also,
right,
right? It's,
right, right.
that internal voice in your head, the fear, the imposter syndrome, whatever, emotion that is attached to it. It's like, okay, how can we unpack that to help you get to where you want to go on that next step? And so that's kind of an example of something that I would help a client, work with in their law firm, or, kind of time management, productivity, improving systems and processes in your firm, helping them increase their bottom line to be more profitable in their law firms, are kind of things that I see a lot. And a lot of times those conversations, we start with the professional issue, but there's usually some personal issues that it all kind of comes together, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're not isolated, right?
Uh-uh.
And so usually it all kind of ties together. So we start with this professional issue, and then we kind of are unpacking some, personal issues or internal, baggage that they're having to help them have a happier life and a happier law firm, which is really my
Yeah.
goal for my clients.
Right, because you're about their outcome, and if you're and the results, and
Yeah.
usually, to change the result, we have to go inward. We have to go to the
Yeah, we have to
personal
do
stuff.
some
It
cleanup
just
work
is.
usually. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. But that's where the real result happens, the sustainable ones.
Yeah. I think, when we do that work, the client is, is coming from internal, right? So
Yes,
I'm helping them find it from inside and to bring it out of them,
right.
and so, and there's some things where I can tell my client, okay, you should do this, and this, as far as their law firms. But I think the real magic happens and the real long-term change happens when I help them find the answers from within. Most of my clients know what they need to do. I just have to help them bring it out and then help them be accountable to themselves to make
Right.
sure the change actually happens.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it is. I mean, accountability is so key, especially because otherwise they would have done it a while ago. But it's
Right.
hard doing this internal work to create a different outcome. We need accountability, someone to just be there for us, especially when we want to retreat back, or we want to, yeah, go back to our old pattern.
Yeah. And especially when
Um,
my client is like, they're so busy putting out the fires every
yes.
day
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
doing this, cleanup internal work, which will be better for them in the long run, but in the immediate day to day is not the priority. So I help them to make it a priority in their lives so we can have those long term changes for the better that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going to do the same thing right now. If you're on my YouTube channel, you can see that I'm a little stuffy and a little But because I love you all so much, I worked through this. I wanted to be with Darcel today to be on this. I think this was an amazing, lots of insight on this episode, for especially for us busy folks who are trying to manage both our professional life and our personal life. So many gold nuggets. Thank you so much, Darcel, for sharing these pieces, your experiences, and what you can do for your clients. How can people find you, whether it's for your attorney services or coaching?
Yeah, so my coaching website is dalcoaching.com, DAL coaching.com. Or on LinkedIn, I'm at Darcel Lobo. I think I'm the only Darcel Lobo on LinkedIn, so I should
Oh,
be pretty easy
wow,
to.
that's so cool. Wow.
And so yeah, LinkedIn, Darcel Lobo or dalcoaching.com. I have some free resources on my website about managing your
Awesome.
time and how to run your business more efficiently. And then also I have a free daily planner on the website as well. So a few freebies on the website. So I would love to, grab a freebie, and if I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out.
Great. Reach out, grab those freebies, get the resources. And thank you so much, Darcel. Appreciate your time and your experience and sharing what your wisdom with us.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. And I'm going to do
Yeah,
some self-care. See you
there you
all.
go.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. Are you curious on how you measure up with your ability to speak in flow? Come grab my free self-assessment at https://speakinflow.com/assessment. And I'll see you on the other side.